Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really interesting handheld. Now before we do that, I want to ask you guys a quick question. When you think of handhelds, what do you think of? Do you think of the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color? Specifically here we have a backlit Game Boy Color, which is really cool. Do you think of the DS, 3DS, or maybe even other ones such as the PlayStation Vita, PlayStation Portable, the Atari Lynx, the Sega Game Gear, the list goes on and on. Except for one. Today, we're going to be talking about the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Now this was developed by SNK and released in the year 1999 as a follow-up to the original Neo Geo Pocket, which was, I believe, released in Japan. And it was just the Neo Geo Pocket without any color. It's a really cool arcadey type system. As some of you may not know, SNK made a lot of popular arcade systems back in the day. Honestly, they're a cult classic in terms of game companies, and a game company that I've been dying to get into, but a lot of their stuff is very out of my reach in terms of expense. So why don't we take a closer look at the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Okay, getting up close and personal with the Neo Geo Pocket Color here. Some information about it, just generally before we touch on the history of the console. We have two A and B buttons, a power button, an option button, external cable out, which I guess would act as a link cable, similar to the Game Boy. We have a volume, a headphone, and a DC in, which would charge it, as well as a battery compartment here that the older handhelds are infamous for. And I didn't mention a D-pad because it doesn't have a D-pad. Now some of you may be saying, oh, there I am. Some of you may be saying like, well, how does it play? Is it similar to a PSP joystick? Is it similar to like a 3DS joystick? And the answer is no. As I mentioned before in the introduction of the video here, this is made by SNK. Now, the really cool thing about SNK is the fact that they were infamous for arcades. So, making a handheld, they wanted to put their own SNK stamp on it. And I guess you could say that the signature SNK stamp of this console is the joystick. Now, what makes it SNK-like is the fact that it's clicky. For those of you who have been arcade goers for a long time will know that a lot of cool and really the best arcade joysticks have that click to it. Let me move a little closer to the mic so you can hear what I'm talking about. See what I mean? It's like a really satisfying way to feel your game, rather than just using a D-pad. D-pads are great, but this is unexpectedly awesome. Just really quickly want to touch on the games here. Similar to the Game Boy Color and Game Boy line of games, they came in little dust covers, like dust boxes. Really handy and really keeps the pin connectors safe and sound. Now these games are roughly less, or maybe about 3/4 of the size of a Game Boy cartridge. And the pin connectors here are split up two ways here, under the SNK and Neo Geo Pocket logo. Now there isn't two separate pins in this. This goes to one board underneath the plastic casing. It's a really cool cartridge, I guess you could say, and it has this nice little lip here that when it's in the back of the console, it's really easy to just pull out. It's like similar to the way that the Game Boy games have this notch out that you can just lift out. It's just easy to, like that. So really cool and really nice use of design, I guess you could say. Now moving on to the games, the Neo Geo Pocket Color isn't backlit like a Game Boy Advanced or Game Boy Advance SP, so that's one thing that you would have to deal with. I remember when I was a kid and I had a Game Boy Color, I would have to play under really good light like a lamp, or I'd just have to play outside, which would be the only way that I could really play. Now, quickly about the games here using this guy here, the joystick, the 8-way joystick. For fighting games, I'm not that big of a fighting game fan. Well, I love fighting games, but I'm just not good at them. This joystick makes it so easy for me to do combos like the Hadoken from Ryu. It just flows. See, I can just boom, like nobody's business here. It's really, really fun, and it just makes the games a lot better because it's just a comfortable system. Not only because of the joystick, but the design, I guess you could say, is really ergonomic, because the way that you hold it, your fingers here will go under in this notch here, so it's just really comfortable. It really feels good in the hands, which is a definite plus for the system. So getting into a little more history about this system, this was released August 6th in North America of 1999. And it retailed for around $70, $75, and it was pretty successful. Similar to the competitors of the Game Boy, like the Atari Lynx, the Game Gear, and I guess even the Bandai WonderSwan, if we want to go that far. Out of all those, this enjoyed the most success since the Game Gear. You know, the Game Boy and the Game Gear had the ruthless battle in the early 1990s. This was really cool because, like the Game Boy Color, it featured different colors of the systems. It was available in a camouflage blue, a carbon black, crystal white, platinum blue, platinum silver, and a stone blue. I'm not quite sure which one this is. I want to say bluish because, you know, it has a bluish tint to it. I don't know. Unfortunately, this was discontinued in 2001. Didn't really sell well enough to keep them in business, I guess you could say, and SNK was bought out. But the cool thing was, before SNK was bought out, this was being advertised on US television, and units like this were being sold nationally in Walmart, Best Buy, Toys R Us, and other large gaming chains like Funko Land, if those were still around, and Electronics Boutique. So it was gaining popularity before the actual demise of the system, so I guess you could say it went out on top. One cool thing about this system is that 2 AA batteries will give this 40 hours of playtime. Can you say that about a Game Boy? Maybe, but it's really cool. Screen resolution on this guy would be 160 by 152, featuring 146 on-screen colors out of a palette of 4,096, making it a very good and pretty system to look at, regardless of the fact that this doesn't have a backlight, as I mentioned before. One interesting thing that I read about is that there was cables linking multiple systems, similar to a Game Boy Color and Game Boy Link cable, but this could connect the Neo Geo Pocket Color to the Dreamcast. Games that had that kind of option would be King of Fighters, and SNK versus Capcom Match of the Millennium, which I so conveniently have here. So I guess you could connect this to a Dreamcast and just kind of play together. I don't know how that works. If anybody out there knows, that would be awesome to know, because I've looked it up. Can't really seem to find that much information. There was also a wireless connector released in Japan that would allow players in close proximity to play together, similar to the local wireless that we have now. That is, you know, standard for everybody's gaming needs these days. An MP3 audio player was also add-on and developed, but it wasn't released because SNK was bought out and closed, or, you know, whatever you want to say. So basically, that's the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Let's take a better look at some games here. I did show the Match the Millennium. Here we have Sonic Pocket Adventure. Let's get a nice close-up look on this screen here. Honestly, what I may do is I may cut into some emulated footage. Now, I know I am using the E word here, the forbidden E word, but it's just so hard to capture footage of just a handheld like this, specifically one with no backlight too. So let's just play a couple seconds of Sonic here. One thing I noticed with some of these games here that I have, I don't know if it's just the games that I have or maybe the system. As you heard, there was sound, and now there's not sound anymore. I'm sorry if I'm just like not holding this the right way. It's hard to play through through the thing on the back of the camera that lets me see the viewfinder. Yeah, the viewfinder. But like conventional Sonic games, it plays like a Genesis title, which is really cool because I love the Genesis Sonic games, and this is pretty much no different. Really cool Sonic game. Definitely recommend for those of you who have the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which may be a very slim number. So there we go. We got through stage 1. Let's take a look at Metal Slug. Metal Slug, first mission. Now, for those of you arcade goers, Metal Slug is absolutely classic. You cannot have an SNK console without having a Metal Slug game. I also recommend the Metal Slug Collection on the Wii and the PSP. Really cool bunch of games. Unfortunately, with Sonic, this doesn't seem to have sound either. Pretty sure it's probably just the cartridges. The other thing you'll notice about this game in particular, normally Metal Slug is just jam-packed with enemies on the screen, but this isn't. It's not really the case here. Just because I guess you could say due to limitations in the cartridge and the system, you can only really have a few enemies on screen at once, which is fine, because it's a handheld and whatever. So cool game, and I love Metal Slug, so definitely check this game out. Here we have Puzzle Bobble Mini. Hopefully maybe sound will work for us here, so let's see. Keep my fingers crossed. Oh, it just kind of cropped out there. So I guess I don't know if it's my system or the games here, but Puzzle Bobble, really fun game. It's kind of like a match 'em up, like a Bejeweled type game. I know that's it's nothing like Bejeweled, trust me. But you just got to match the colors and try to get combos and get all these baubles out of the way. You'll notice at the bottom, it's got the little guy from Bubble Bobble on the NES. One of my favorite games on the NES, which is really cool to see him appear in something else, especially on an SNK console. This is a really arcade fan favorite game as well. So there you have it, guys. That is my review of the Neo Geo Pocket Color by SNK. A really cool system that I highly encourage you guys to check out. You can get it for pretty cheap these days. The average price on eBay is about $40 for just the system, and the cartridges, you know, depending on the condition and what game they are. Here we have Metal Slug. They can vary in expense. So be on the lookout for that, and as I said, I highly recommend this. So stop watching this video, go on eBay and go pick one up, or go out to your local flea markets and retro stores and see if you can find it there. So thanks for watching this episode, guys, and I will see you on the next one.